Hello again, Honors Algebra 2. Welcome back. Today is a big, exciting day. We're going to talk about the unit circle. And we're going to take all that knowledge we have from 7.4 and we're going to find shortcuts again to finding values of sine of 30 degrees, sine of 150 degrees, tangent of 300 degrees, and so on. So the first thing, if you want to take on your paper and make a circle like this, and for you perfectionists out there, get a compass, draw a nice circle. And you can see all of our degrees here and turns starting at 0, going in increments of 30, 60, 90, 120, 150, 180, 210, 240, 270, 300, 330, 360. Those will be our 30, 60, 90 triangles. And then we go in increments of 45, 90, 135, 180, 225, 270, and 315. So you can skip count around by 30s and by 45s. What we're going to try to do here is find out the value of each ordered pair, and we're going to do that by making a unit circle, which means the radius of the entire circle is 1. Okay? So this point is 1, 0. That's the radius. This point is 0, 1. This point is left 1, up 0. And this point is over 0, down 1. There will be a slide with all of these points on it in a little bit. You will remember that quadrant 1, x and y are positive. In quadrant 2, we go left and up, so it's a negative and a positive if you put a coordinate point in there. In quadrant 3, you're negative and you're left and down, so negative, negative. In quadrant 4, you go to the right and down. We also had a little mnemonic about who's positive. All the trig functions are positive there. Sine is positive here. Tangent is positive here. And cosine. Our little mnemonic was all students take calculus. There's a little setup. And if you remember the radius is always 1, we're going to help you put in the ordered pairs. I'm going to start with the 45. No, I'm going to start with the 30, 60, 90 triangle. Remember, on a 30, 60, 90 triangle, the side lengths are 1, 2, and square root of 3. And it's super important that you remember this, you guys. The 1 is opposite the 30. So if you draw it somewhat to scale, this is the shortest side. Across from the 30 is the 1. So now, what are we going to do? We are going to make this on a unit circle. And we're going to switch this up so that this radius is 1. We're going to chop that circle down. So what would happen to my triangle if I wanted this side to be 1 instead of 2? Well, I think you would remember from all of our transformations and dilations, we'd shrink it, and we would just cut it in half. If we divide that side by 2, we're going to get a radius of 1. So that means we're going to divide this by 2, and we're going to divide this by 2. So if I go back, I'm going to be going over the square root of 3 divided by 2, and I'm going to be going up a half. So I'm going to take my 30, 60, 90, 1, 2, square root of 3, and I'm going to shrink it because I'm on a unit circle. A unit circle means the radius is 1. So I know that this side now is 1. That's my radius. How could I get that coordinate? Well, I could draw in my unit triangle, root 3 over 2 and 1 half. Remember, it was 1, 2 square root of 3, and now I divided all those by 2. So to get that coordinate, everybody, would be to the right, square root of 3 over 2, and up a half. And that is your first point in the unit circle. Okay? If that makes sense to you, you are doing great. Now I'm going to do the 60 next because it's the same numbers. The 2 is here, but the 1 comes down here this time, and our square root of 3 is over here. So I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to shrink it down, and I'm going to cut it in half. And now I think you can see where our ordered pair is going to be. So to get this point, I'm going to go to the right a half and up the square root of 3 over 2. That's my x and my y. So I'm going to go to the right a half and up square root of 3 over 2. Notice that 60 and 30 are just flipped, xy, yx. You won't believe this, but you will have this thing memorized after a couple of days, and we'll practice drawing it all out. Okay, our last thing we're going to take a look at is the 45. So here is the 30, 60, 90 again. So if we take this, I was kind of hoping I could squeeze this on here. That's how you get that point. You are going to the right square root of 3 over 2, and you're going up a half. So we took that triangle that was 1, 2 square root of 3, and we cut it down. Now, if I take my 60, and I move this one, drag this, and I squeeze it in here, you can see how I got that ordered pair, I hope. It is over and up, over a half, up the square root of 3 over 2. So we took that 30, 60, 90, and we shrunk it down again. All right, now let's talk about the 45. So here is our 45, 1, 1 square root of 2. I hope you remember that. It's isosceles. We have 2 equal sides. Now this one requires a little bit more thought. How do you get the square root of 2 to be on a unit circle of radius of 1? So remember, I'm talking about this right here, and in my unit circle, the radius is always 1. Well, what would I have to do to this side to make it equal 1? I would have to divide it by the square root of 2. Divide it by the square root of 2. If I do that, this side is now 1. 1 divided by the square root of 2 is square root of 2 over 2, and square root of 2 over 2. So I love the 45. I fit it in there. It's over root 2. I know it's going to be isosceles. I know x and y are going to be the same. So it's root 2 over 2, root 2 over 2. All right, so now, before I show you the finished unit circle, I want you to practice quadrant 1. All right, so let's start right here. Where is that point? 1, 0. So I'm making a unit circle. Sorry that it's not very nice. Radius is 1. Now I'm going to go up 30 degrees. It is over root 3 over 2 and up a half. Now I'm going to do 45 degrees. This is the easy one to remember. Root 2 over 2, root 2 over 2. And 60 degrees, you take these two and you switch them around. And then this point would be 0, 1. You're probably wondering why we're doing all this. Well, if you remember, so what I would recommend to everybody is I would practice this like 5 times. See if you can draw and put those points on. And here's why. Sine is y over d. Cosine is x over d. Tangent is y over x. Well, in this case, d is the same thing as the radius. D is 1. So I know that sine is just going to be the y value. Cosine the x value, and tangent we'll talk about a little bit more later. So here's what's cool to everybody. Here's what's cool, everybody. The sine of 30 degrees, it's a half. I go right here and I look at my unit circle. The sine of 45 degrees is root 2 over 2. I go right here and look at my unit circle. And you can probably guess the sine of 60 degrees is root 3 over 2. It's right there. So if I know the unit circle, I can find the sine, cosine, tangent values very, very quickly. And that's why we make it have a radius of 1. I wish you were here in class so we could give you all sorts of quizzes and time you and see how much fun you could have doing all this. We're going to talk about the other quadrants now in just a little bit. But I also want you to figure, well, I think that's enough for now. If you want, try to draw the unit circle again. See if you could put in the points. Where is 30? Where is 45? Where is 60? And just keep practicing. And here are your answers. Now, what we didn't do is we did not talk about all of the quadrants, but I want you guys to look at something here. This is 30 degrees, and it's root 3 over 2 and a half. Look at what 150 degrees is. It's got the same reference angle of 30 degrees, and it's negative root 3 over 2, Last we talked about xy. This is going to be negative xy. Look at the 2's are still the same. The root 2 over 2's are still the same. The 1/2 is still the same. The y values are the same, but x become opposite. Over here, it's negative x, negative y. So you take this first quadrant, and you take all those values, and you just switch them around. So here is 210 degrees. Negative root 3 over 2, negative 1/2. Negative root 2 over 2, negative root 2 over 2. And then you can come down here into the fourth quadrant. This would be 330 degrees, and you've got x, negative y. Okay? So this is the completed unit circle. And then what you'll want to do is put all of these degrees on there too. So I'm going to complete this one with you, and it's not going to take that long. And once you see the pattern, we'll put the completed slide up there again because it'll be hard for me to fit all these in here. So do the quadrants first. 1, 0. 0, 1. Negative 1, 0. 0, negative 1. And if you want to write on your notes, remember sine is going to go with the y value, cosine with the x, tangent, you're going to have to calculate y divided by x. So the sine of 0, you guys, is 0. Sine of 90 is 1. Sine of 180 is 0. Sine of 270 is negative 1. And you could go around and do cosine the same way. Now, see if you can fill this one in. It is root 3 over 2, 1/2. And you either can memorize it or you can picture the 1, 2 square root of 3. And this was the 1 divided by 2 is up. 45s are the nicest. Root 2 over 2, root 2 over 2. They're the same. And if you think of a 45-degree triangle, special right triangle, it's 1, 1, square root of 2. And the 60 is just the opposite of this one, or the reverse, or switching the x and the y, 1/2, root 3 over 2. That's the quadrant you want to memorize. Because now everything over here is the same, except you're going to change it to negative positive. So I'm going to start and just keep working my way around. Instead of 1/2, it's going to be negative 1/2. Root 3 over 2. This is going to be negative root 2 over 2. Root 2 over 2. This will be negative root 3 over 2. 1/2. Then you'll come down here, and they'll go negative, negative. So we're going to go negative root 3 over 2, negative 1/2. Negative root 2 over 2. Negative root 2 over 2. This one will be negative 1/2, negative root 3 over 2. Then you come to the last quadrant and you go x negative y, so it'll be 1/2 negative root 3 over 2. Root 2 over 2, negative root 2 over 2. And root 3 over 2, negative 1/2. So watch this, everybody. Sine of 30 degrees, go to 30 degrees, sine is y, 1/2. Sine of 330 is down here, negative 1/2. It's the y value. Sine of 270, negative 1. Sine of 150, 1/2. You can just go around and sketch a unit circle and make all of those. I'm going to give you the completed unit circle again. Here it is. I know it's kind of faint, but you could look this up in many places and find the unit circle. But you can pause your video and copy down those points. And again, I would really practice doing the first quadrant. I'm going to give you one more thing to leave you with. So let's say I asked you for cosine of 150 degrees. Draw your unit circle. 30 degrees is here. 30 degrees is root 3 over 2, 1/2. Well, 150 degrees is over here. It's the same numbers. Root 3 over 2, 1/2. But the x value is negative, because I went left and up. So my answer is negative root 3 over 2. Let's say we wanted the cosine of 315 degrees. I think about the first quadrant. 45 degrees is root 2 over 2. Well, 315 is down here. it's got the same values, but the y is negative. And I don't care because cosine goes with the x value, so I was going to use this first value. This cosine goes with the x value, which is root 2 over 2. You're going to see some real shortcuts. If the number ends in 5, your answer is going to most likely be root 2 over 2. If it ends in a 0, it's going to be a 30, 60, 90. Your answers are going to be 1/2 in square root of 3 over 2. I'm going to give you one last thing because I'm having so much fun. I hope you are too. I'm going to draw that first quadrant one more time. 30 degrees, root 3 over 2, 1/2. 45 degrees, root 2 over 2, root 2 over 2. And 60 degrees, 1/2, root 3 over 2. Now, what I'm going to do is, you know that sine goes with y, cosine goes with x. Well, tangent we haven't talked about. It's y over x. So I'm going to put the tangent answers up here in green. Well, in this one, the tangent of 45 would be the y value, root 2 over 2, over root 2 over 2. Well, if you divide the same thing by itself, you're going to get 1. Tangent of 45 is 1. So here are some things you could remember or memorize too. And you can type that in your calculator and see that it's 1, or you can just flip this and multiply however you want to do it. You're going to get 1. Now the tangent of 30 degrees is going to be 1/2 over root 3 over 2. It's going to be y over x. So I'm going to do 1/2 times the reciprocal of this, which is 2 over root 3. You're going to see that you get 2 over 2 root 3. The 2's cancel, and you get 1 over root 3. Well, you can't keep your answer like that, so it's going to be root 3 over 3. And you could memorize these. The tangent of 60 is going to be the reciprocal of 1 over root 3, which is root 3. So there are some more things for you to think about, and you could put those all the way around your unit circle. There's a little intro on the unit circle. I hope you found it worthwhile and fun. The unit circle is used so much in higher mathematics. You guys will get really good at it, and you'll learn to love it. Thanks for listening.